Hello and welcome to Rajya Sabha Television. You're watching The Big Picture with me, Frank Rausen Pereira. A voter turnout of over 55% was recorded as polling in 78 constituencies spread across 19 districts came to an end for the third and final phase of Bihar Assembly elections on Saturday. In this phase, the ruling NDA, which is battling anti-incumbency factor, is locked in a fierce contest against the RJD-led Mahagathbandhan. As many as 2.35 crore voters were eligible to decide the fate of 1,204 candidates today. Despite the pandemic, Bihar saw a considerable voter turnout with Phase 1 recording 54% votes, marginally lower than 54.75% for the same seats in 2015 elections. Similarly, Phase 2 witnessed 55.7% voter turnout as compared to 56.17% recorded last time. Counting of votes for all the three phases of polling will be held on November 10th. In this edition of The Big Picture, we will analyze the Bihar Assembly elections. Joining me on the program today are Smita Mishra, senior journalist, Shekhar Iyer and Ashok Tandon, senior journalist as well. Thank you to all my guests for joining me on this edition of The Big Picture. Mr. Tandon, let me begin the program with you first. How would you look back at the three phases of polling in Bihar?
First of all, I think we all need to congratulate the Election Commission of India for holding a very organized election. And also, we must thank the security forces for conducting a very peaceful election, because Bihar has always been very notorious as far as elections are concerned. I think by and large, the elections have been peaceful. And the fear whether the elections could be held in the pandemic also have been belied. I think the people of Bihar also need to be congratulated for making this festival of democracy a success. The poll percentage is marginally lower than the last election, so which speaks volume of the people of Bihar for coming out in a large turnout, and we could see, big queues, and also, but I must just point out that at certain places we could see that the social distancing was not maintained. Many of the people were not wearing masks, but nevertheless, the overall turnout has been very encouraging. I think it will send out a very clear message to the world that Indian democracy is really vibrant, functional, and example is not only the state assembly elections in Bihar, but also the by-elections in so many states. I think that needs to be appreciated. But coming back to the question of Bihar Assembly election, I think the picture is not yet clear. We will have to wait for the outcome, because there have been a lot of changes in the alliance partners, and especially the Lok Janashakti Party coming out of NDA and making a big surprise in Bihar election, targeting Nitish Kumar, at the same time appreciating and praising Prime Minister Modi. This is a very important factor which we'll have to see. But the issues in Bihar were both national as well as local also. A lot of promises were made by both the camps, and then there was a question of the young leadership coming up. So I think it's too early for us to analyze the election, but I think overall we must be feeling very happy that in spite of all the apprehensions about the election being held in a pandemic, the elections have been held successfully. Now we'll have to wait for the results.
Absolutely. And we don't have to wait for too long, just a few more days really as far as counting of votes is concerned. November 10th is when all will be revealed. But Shekhar Iyer, let me bring you into the picture now. So let's first talk about and try and understand what are the factors that are likely to influence this election.
Well, I think one of the major factors will be the pandemic effect. What we have seen is the Bihar has particularly gone through a lot of stress, not just in terms of migrant labor coming in and staying back, and some of them again now trying to go back. That is one. And the second is what has happened is in the last 5 years, a lot of things have happened in terms of governance, but they have not been so dramatic as the previous 5 years and the previous to that. So in effect, you are seeing a government which is facing the electorate after 15 years. And for Nitish Kumar, this is the fourth term. So you can see the kind of anti-incumbency factors which are normally at work. And the third thing is, what has happened in the last 15 years is, new constituencies in terms of caste combinations have come to stay. So you have the BJP, which largely has a support base consisting of the so-called upper caste. You have the RJD, which on the opposite side, which consists of largely the NY factor or the Muslim and youth, Yadav factor. Then you have the JDU, which, thanks to Nitish patenting a kind of a social engineering consisting of extremely backward castes as well as Mahadalits. So you have that combination. Then along with that, you have the minorities who are largely with RJD, etc., etc. So you have very strong caste patterns which have evolved over the last 50, 20 years. So therefore, this particular election is going to again raise a question mark which came when Nitish swept the polls, saying that that particular election when Nitish came to power 2005, he had actually broken that so-called the caste mold which were there before. Now this time what you're going to see is there is a lot of focus on Nitish Kumar. More than I would say India, it is Nitish Kumar. But then this is one election we are also seeing there is a continued popularity for the Prime Minister Narendra Modi. And it is appearing as if it is Narendra Modi's campaign, Narendra Modi's persona and commitment to development, which is actually now pushing the NDA, rather than Nitish Kumar alone, who was some kind of a Vikas Babu or Susasan Babu, or there was the driver of the development agenda for NDA in Bihar. So you are seeing a lot of changes that have happened in terms of, and also you have the factor called the Lok Jan Shakti Party. Unfortunately, its founder Ramvilas Paswan passed away a few days ago, but his son has launched himself on an anti-Nitish plan. I mean, trying to catch on the anti-incumbency mood of among some voters, and whether he can. And but strangely, rather he has been talking of working towards a BJP-led government minus Nitish Kumar, backed by LJP. So you have a lot of agenda work, but then we have also seen RJD reaching out to LJP. There is another factor also, and the Mahagathbandhan this time consists of not just the RJD or the Congress or the left parties, it also has the radical left in play. So all these factors, is going to throw up a very, very interesting result.
Absolutely, absolutely. All right, so Smita Mishra, let's talk about this issue of caste and social engineering that Shekhar Iyer brought up. How much of an impact do you believe that it has had in the 2020 polls?
Yes, thank you for inviting, Frank. Let me tell you that in the past, at least 3 or even 4 state assembly elections in Bihar, I have felt one thing, and which commentators, political analysts usually tend to do. And this time round, we are seeing even more of it in almost every publication, all television debates, digital webinars, and digital platforms. People generally tend to separate the vote on caste affiliations or identity affiliations in comparison to the vote on governance, on issues of bread and butter, or shall we say bijli, sadak, pani, etc. My study, my understanding, my sense of the Bihar voter has been that in the past few elections, it is not so simple and cut and dry to separate a caste vote and a vote on governance. We tend to look at them as two watertight compartments. It is not that simple, because when people go to vote at the booth, no doubt they have caste and identity affiliations in mind. Caste loyalties are involved. If he or she sees that there is a person heading a party from his own caste who is a strong leader, he or she will tend to go for that. But at the same time, people have not blindly voted for caste. They have factored their livelihood, their future, the aspirational Bihari about whom we keep hearing so much and reading so much these days. So who is the aspirational Bihari? He or she is one who is not ashamed of his or her caste connection or the deep roots caste has in Bihar politics and also community for that matter. But he or she is not going to blindly cast the vote just looking at the name or the surname of the leader. They will look at the prospects of their future. They will look at the fact that whether the place where they live, does it have enough infrastructure? Does it have the wherewithal to ensure good development for themselves and their children? So therefore, I find it a little specious and even artificial, if I may say, to separate the caste with the aspirational vote. I would rather say that caste certainly will be seen when he or she goes to vote. However, it will not be the only factor. Caste loyalties will not matter if someone sees their future being jeopardized. But Bihar being what it is, they will certainly hold some water, the caste or the community of the person. So frankly, it will be a mix of both. People will have a feeling and affiliation for their caste leaders or the caste parties. However, they will finally vote, or they have already voted looking at their future and their development of their own village, their town, and the state.
Right. Okay. Points taken. Taking the discussion forward now, Mr. Tandon, how big a factor do you think anti-incumbency is as far as this election was concerned? Let's not forget, Nitish Kumar has been at the helm for 15 years.
Of course, in any election, anti-incumbency has been a factor. But if you look at the last couple of elections, particularly the Lok Sabha election, the pro-incumbency has been now dominating Indian politics, and in some of the states also. The incumbent governments have returned to power. And so Modi has set an example in this. And therefore, I will not be surprised if the anti-incumbency factor is neutralized by the pro-incumbency factor because of the achievements of the central government which have percolated down to the state level, even to the district and the panchayat level. So the benefits which the central government has given to the states and to the people in every state, particularly in Bihar, we have seen. So it may neutralize the anti-incumbency factor, which the opposition in Bihar is trying to exploit. And so therefore, Modi factor, as Shekhar also very rightly pointed out, is a factor in the Bihar election also, because a lot has been done for the poor and even the migrant labor, for the farmers. If you look at the schemes of the central government, which have been, announced in the last few years, so that have reached the lower level, that have reached the grassroots level in the rural area to the farmers, to the migrant labor. And when they look at it, while before casting their vote, even if they may not be very happy with Nitish Kumar as the chief minister, but these factors do count. So therefore, I personally feel at the end of the day, as Smita was saying, it may boil down to a caste factor rather than the anti-incumbency factor as far as the... but the one thing which I pointed out earlier was the politics of Lok Janashakti Party is rather intriguing, because that has been intriguing the urban voters, particularly in Bihar, which way the Lok Janashakti Party is going to behave in the post-poll scenario. So that confusion, I think, will have some impact on the urban voter particularly. But I don't think, because Lok Janashakti Party doesn't have a wider base in Bihar. It has pockets, and even in each constituency, a small pocket. So they may be able to influence that particularly vote bank. But if you look at the seat share of the Lok Janashakti Party, even in the last election, though they were part of the NDA, their seat share was not really very significant. I think they got only 5% vote and 2 seats. So now when they are fighting alone, how much percentage do they expect? I don't think their vote percentage is likely to increase by a couple of percentage. Maybe from 5%, they may go up to 7%. But in terms of seat, I don't think they are going to cut much ice. But the fact remains that the Mahagathbandhan led by the RJD is formidable. There's no doubt about it, because even in the last election, they got 80 seats and their vote share, although was much less, but because of the alliance, they could perform very well. So
Hmm.
ultimately, I think in the ultimate analysis, the fight will be between the NDA and the Mahagathbandhan led by RJD.
Okay, all right. So this, this point about the LJP, Shekhar Iyer, I'd like to take that forward with you. How much of an impact or how much of an issue on the ground is it? Is the LJP going to get sympathy vote now that Ramvilas Paswan is no more? Do you believe that Chirag Paswan has been able to have the same kind of impact that his father once had? And do you believe that he can take the party forward?
Well, I think these are rather, I would say, at the moment, one cannot be very definite about the impacts or the feeling of sympathy for Ramvilas Paswan. But if you look at the candidates put up by LJP, you see, LJP basically has been, has been riding on what is generally called the Paswan vote or the Dushat vote, and they are basically Dalits who do the agricultural work. But then Paswans have moved a lot forward in the last 3-4 decades because they are considered to be the creamy layer among the Dalits in Bihar. That is why Nitish Kumar's patented social engineering saw a concept called Mahadalits and extremely backward castes. So what has happened is, so long as Ramvilas Paswan ji was there, there was a lot of support among the Paswans. Now, with Chirag Paswan, who is not easily identifiable as a Paswan leader, quote unquote, in Bihar, so he has rather, put up candidates who did not get tickets in BJP or in JDU, and mostly they belong to the non-backward class communities, and in the hope that they will eat into the JDU votes, or even in some cases maybe even BJP votes, and therefore he will, because his whole strategy is to have about, say, 5 to 6 or at best 10 MLAs with his party, so that they can do some post-poll bargaining. But I do not see such a great success for LJP for the simple fact, because those who are with Nitish, particularly the EBCs and Mahadalits, see, they are also looking at the aggression that they are seeing in terms of the support for RJD. See, when you see that, because you see, there was one particular point we have to remember. Prime Minister was under great compulsion and his own desire to see that none of the COVID protocol was violated in any of his rallies. Therefore, you saw restrictions on the number of people attending the rally, the physical distance being maintained in the rallies. But we did not see a similar thing happening in your Tejasvi Yadav rallies, because nobody was there even to point out that, look, this is a gross violation of Election Commission's guidelines. So therefore there was a perceptual image, I would say, was created the way the media was reporting, that the huge crowds are surging at Tejasvi Yadav's rally, but similar thing is not happening in the PM's rally. Similar
Right.
thing was not happening in the PM's rally for the simple reason there were protocols to be followed, and Prime Minister was very insistent that at no case, there should be no room for anyone to say that these have been violated. And besides, Bihar has been passing through a severe stage of pandemic, so that was kept in mind. Now the question is, I believe in Bihar. Yes, unemployment is a big issue that was raised by Tejasvi Yadav, signaled by Tejasvi Yadav, but the solution that he has offered, that he will provide 10 lakh jobs in the government of Bihar. This is I would say one of the most difficult proposition, which itself, if it were to be implemented, as Nitish ji pointed out, would require 1 lakh 50,000 crore only for this, when the Bihar's budget is not such,
Right.
just to provide almost 90% for just giving jobs. So that is something, an impossibility. Number one. Number two, I think you see, Tejasvi Yadav did not use the picture of his father or his mother in any of his posters. Did not even recall, what is the great 15 years of rule that the Lalu Prasad Yadav family gave to Bihar. He never chose to go into it at all. So he was promising something different from Nitish. But I think memories of people, memories of voters in Bihar has not changed much, because when they think of the 15 years ago, the situation which propelled Nitish to take charge and
Right.
usher in a new period, that memory has not faded away. Well, yes, today the aspirational Bihar is looking for jobs, like the rest of India is looking for jobs. I mean, the situation in Bihar is no different from the rest. But there are, I would say, issues which are germane to problems of Bihar. And that
Certainly.
problem, particularly attracting capital for setting up manufacturing industries, so that involves a lot of other issues, particularly the land use, land availability. There are several such issues that actually can propel Bihar on a path of greater growth. So those
Absolutely.
are issues cannot be solved by Tejasvi giving out that kind of promise, which people of Bihar, they are known to be politically very aware and
Hmm.
quite skeptical whenever politicians make some grand promises.
Okay. All right. So, Smita Mishra, let me take another aspect forward with you. All panelists have spoken about COVID, have spoken about physical distancing and a difficult time that the country is in. Despite that, a very successful election was held in Bihar. Voter turnout, too, was almost on par with what took place in 2015 as well. What does this say, really, as far as the voter on the ground is concerned?
Yes, as Mr. Tandon said in the beginning of our discussion, full marks to the Election Commission of India. But going beyond that, Frank, I must say that look at the Bihari voter, look at the men and women of Bihar, and I compliment the women more than anybody else, the way they have proved all the cynics wrong. Can you notice, shall I take you a few weeks back, Frank? If you remember, there was a beeline to the Election Commission of various political parties and activists. And even in media channels, people were continually raising the issue why this election should not be held, because they thought that this election in the midst of a pandemic is a bad idea. Now that we are through with the voting and going to see the results very soon, can you see how the people of Bihar, the voter of Bihar has proved those cynics completely wrong? There were a lot of questions being raised about Biharis not following the COVID protocol generally. Correct. But then, if you look at the booths, all protocols were followed. The Election Commission made 500 more booths than earlier elections. That is, it went up by 500 more polling booths just to ensure that distancing is maintained and everybody who wants to cast their vote will get an opportunity. Special arrangements were made, and people, I think, the desire to vote, the desire to participate in this process of democracy, this festival of democracy, managed to beat all the fears of the pandemic. We only hope that people in Bihar keep well, they are healthy, and by showing that they have come out in almost nearly the same numbers. Actually, if you go face by face, the voting percentage is quite the same as it was 5 years ago, which means the attraction for political participation has beaten all fears of the pandemic very clearly. And I think because we are going to have several elections in several states very soon in the new year, I think a very good message will go out to the people of the country that if the Election Commission takes the initiative and the people are ready to cooperate, then we can always have elections in a very organized manner, even if the pandemic has not subsided. And I think India has shown a way to the whole world. Let us not keep it to the country. The message from Bihar can go globally, actually, that for those countries who suspended their elections for the pandemic.
Absolutely. I think these are some very valid points to be noted and to be taken forward as well. On that note, I'd like to call it a wrap on this edition of The Big Picture. Thank you to all my guests for joining me on the program and putting things into perspective. For us, voting is now completed in 3 phases in Bihar. All that needs to be done is for these EVMs to be opened on the 10th of this month, where results will be declared for the state of Bihar. With that, it's a wrap. See you again next time.